Okay, Toledo, let's talk about the U.S. Surgeon General. He is sounding the alarm about our kids and their mental health. Listen to what Dr. Vivek Murthy told Senate lawmakers during a hearing on Tuesday.
I'm deeply concerned as a parent and as a doctor that the obstacles this generation of young people face are unprecedented and uniquely hard to navigate. And the impact that's having on their mental health is devastating.
Well, Toledo, what's your reaction to hearing the U.S. Surgeon General speak that clearly and urgently about this topic?
You know, I have to say, from somebody that's been in the field for quite some time, it's nice to see the level of attention that mental health is getting, the importance that nationwide we are looking at this issue of mental health. Certainly, I think everybody would agree that going through this global pandemic for now, 2 years, has certainly put a huge level of stress on the entire nation. I think children becomes even more vulnerable in that sense, because not only are they going through their own emotions, but oftentimes they're feeding off of their family's emotions. So there's other layers to that stress that they're trying to navigate and understand what's happening, around them.
Yeah, so many people have been wound a little tightly, to say the least, throughout this pandemic. But it's interesting, too, the Surgeon General is pointing to social media as well. So you have those interpersonal interactions at home, maybe in school, but then you have whatever's taking place on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the kind of bullying that can take place there. The Surgeon General says it can really lead to loneliness. And if you're not seeing people the way we all once saw each other, perhaps those comments, that kind of trolling, can take a more prominent role in a child's psyche, right?
100%. Advice that I oftentimes, so the population that I work with is college students, and an advice that I constantly give students is limit your exposure to social media. Not only from the potential bullying aspect of it, but because people oftentimes can hide behind a computer screen. So what somebody might say on a computer screen, they may not necessarily say to somebody in person. So I think when people do go through social media, they may encounter comments and expressions that make them feel not so great, right? So my advice is always have that self-awareness. So sometimes when we stroll through social media, we're almost on like autopilot. So I always say, begin with that self-awareness and try to gauge, how were you feeling before you started going through Facebook, Instagram, what have you? How are you feeling afterwards? You are your best friend. If you're finding that after this, you're feeling agitated and upset and angry, why continue to engage in an activity that's leading to that adverse reaction? On top of that, pandemic aside, let's be honest, social media is pictures of everybody's best moments.
That's it.
So it does create this, I always joke when I post pictures of my family, I don't post the 10 pictures before when my kids were screaming at each other and I was screaming at them. No, I just show the final beautiful product. So when people are on social media, they start to compare their own life to other people's, picture perfect life, which can lead to more of that feeling of what's wrong with me, my life is not as great, just not great for our mental health.
And Toledo, we know that, right? We all recognize that everyone's putting their best out there, and yet still it's something of a trap, because when you're in that moment and you're reading through, that's not what's running through your mind. What's running through your mind is, wait a minute, why wasn't I able to do that? Or why isn't this working as well for me?
Absolutely. And listen, I'm guilty of it too. I say it, but I find myself on social media. Something that I find is helpful for me is making sure my phone is not in my hand the whole time. Sometimes, you just find yourself going right to that social media post. So when your phone is maybe in a different room, is not as readily available, it becomes a little bit more challenging. You have to get up, you have to walk to the next room, you have to grab your phone. And even those short seconds of that walk from your living room to your bedroom can make the difference between you asking, do I really want to engage? Do I really want to, to go through people's social media posts?
Yeah, when we were kids, it was, do we want to get up and find the remote to change the channel? Now it's, do we want that instant feedback loop for good or bad? It can certainly be a cycle.